The curse of Oak Island has haunted humanity for centuries. Different minds have created different speculations, and some of them have even found physical evidence. So today, I am bringing you 3 wildest treasure stories about the island. The curse began to find different backings after the legend of Captain Kidd became a folklore, a notorious pirate who is rumored to have buried treasure on Oak Island. It is said that he placed a curse on the treasure to protect it from being discovered. Fast forward to 2023, June 7th, 2023. The Lagena brothers made a significant discovery in their search for the Oak Island treasure with a new scanning tool called ground-penetrating radar. They were excavating in Smith's Cove, an area of the island believed to be the treasure's location, when they found a large stone slab buried 10 feet under the ground with strange symbols of 1 inch carved into it. The slab weighs around 1,000 pounds and is composed of limestone and about 3 feet broad, 2 feet tall, and 6 inches thick. The Lagena brothers sought professional aid for interpretation because they thought the symbols on the slab had some significance despite being unintelligible. Sadly, thus far, their efforts haven't been fruitful. This is the first significant discovery in the area since they started looking in 2015. The brothers are relentlessly digging in the region in the hopes of finding further leads, since they are persuaded that the slab may contain a hint as to the whereabouts of the riches. Besides the stone slab, they have also discovered several other priceless things at Smith's Cove, including coins, wooden planks, and beams, among other artifacts, over the years. But that's not all. The brothers claim that these discoveries show a sophisticated flood control mechanism was in place to safeguard the jewels, bringing them one step closer to finding the treasure buried on Oak Island. And this time, they go on many different terrain and paths. On June 14th, 2023, the team discovered a broken piece of old metal, adding more confusion in this decade-old treasure hunt. The metal has a diameter of approximately 1 inch and is about 1/2 inch thick. It is made of a copper alloy and has an illegible raised pattern on one side that shows a face or human form. According to the brothers, this metal object was part of a coin made in the 17th century, which is a significant hint that Oak Island's treasures were hidden there then. Although unclear, the experts think it to be a chunk of money. Who knows? On top of that, they struggle to explain the meaning of the coin's design. This metal chunk is the second most significant discovery in the area, which signifies yet another crucial development in the ongoing search for Oak Island's treasures. The lads continue to scan the environment intently in search of fresh cues. To them, the design appeared as an ambiguous face of a human. The metal item that was unexpectedly found 12 feet below the surface weighs barely 0.5 ounces. Moving on with the discoveries, on June 21st, 2023, the Lagena brothers made another important discovery, an unusual little piece of wood. It was initially built from oak, which has a remarkable texture. According to the Lagena brothers, the wood could have come from a ship buried on Oak Island in the distant past. And this finding in particular is crucial because it adds evidence suggesting a ship buried the wealth on Oak Island, whereas it implies that precious cargo like gold or silver may have been carried by the ship. In an interview, the crew members said the piece of wood was discovered 15 feet below the ground's surface. Days after days, they were excavating in Smith's Cove on the island, which is supposed to be where the treasure is hidden, when they came upon a little ceramic shard that they believed to be from a jug. The ceramic object is 2 inches in diameter and 0.5 inches thick. It was formed of a substance that mimics clay and has a particular pattern on one side. In the pattern, a flower or plant was observed. The Lagena brothers claim the ceramic piece may have come from a jug used to transport wine or other liquids. This would prove that humans were residing on Oak Island in the 17th century, since it would show where the treasure could be buried. They have made several fascinating discoveries in their search, including several Roman artifacts. A lead sword is among the most important Roman artifacts that the Lagena brothers unearthed. And, to everyone's surprise, Smith's Cove is where the sword was located. The sword is assumed to have been manufactured in Italy and dates to the 1st or 2nd century AD, which is ornamented with several motifs, including a dolphin and a trident, and it is in generally good shape. The pottery fragment is another remarkable Roman artifact that the Lagena brothers unearthed. It was discovered in the island's Money Pit region, and supposed to have been produced in France and dates to the 4th or 5th century AD. On the other hand, it was decorated with symbols, including a cross and a sundial. The brothers discovered several other Roman artifacts on Oak Island beside the lead sword and the piece of pottery. Coins, nails, and jewelry are some of these relics. Some people think that Oak Island was previously visited by Roman explorers because of the existence of these Roman articles. A reality television series called The Curse of Oak Island follows the hunt for riches on Oak Island. The brothers Rick and Marty Lagina, who have been looking for the loot for more than 10 years, are followed throughout the series. The Lagina brothers and their gang continued their hunt for riches on the mysterious island in the most recent episode of The Curse of Oak Island, picking up where the previous one left off. The crew concentrated on the marsh in this episode because it was the location of several intriguing artifacts they had previously discovered, including a lead cross and a stone with the Latin inscription 70 feet below. They were able to locate several abnormalities in the swamp using a range of techniques, including sonar and ground-penetrating radar, which they suspect might represent the remnants of buried buildings. One of the most intriguing oddities is a big rectangular object around 70 feet below the surface. The crew is excited to dig into this to see what they uncover, since they think it may be a treasure box. The crew must not harm what they seek, since the marsh is challenging and dangerous. Eventually, they excavated a tiny area of the item, but could not see what was within. In a later episode, they will have to go back to the swamp to carry on their hunt. Yet, the crew made modest strides on other parts of the island. They started digging a new shaft close to the marsh and continued to drill in the money pit location. The crew made some progress in their hunt for riches, even though they made no significant finds in this episode. They are optimistic that the forthcoming episodes will include something important. As more proof that Oak Island has long been the location of covert operations, or more precisely, clichés, the presence of a nearby treasure, the researchers also discovered traces of earlier human activity. That's not it, though. The real deal was the map they found on the island, which dated back to 1647. It was a French copy, with the labels hatch, valve, and anchor, suggested significant connections. In particular, it suggested that the money may have come from Africa, raising the intrigue around Oak Island. The brothers are convinced this map will point them toward their lost money. The series has followed their journey for over a decade, and it will be interesting to see if they can finally solve the mystery. The story goes that, in 1795, while on an adventure on the island, a group of boys around the age of 13 discovered a dip in the earth. They began digging since they believed it to be a fake hole, and as they dug, they found multiple layers of wood and other things. Yet, a mysterious flood stopped them in their tracks, filling the hole with water and blocking any further excavation. As soon as word of the discovery spread, treasure seekers from all over the world flocked to Oak Island to look for the loot. The Onslow Company, a group of financiers, organized the first orderly excavation of the Money Pit in the year 1803. This specific team was able to dig down to a depth of 90 feet before the flooding, which happened in the pit once more, hampered their attempts. Meanwhile, the excavations were permanently halted in 1909 as the Oak Island Treasure Company went out of business. Since then, several other parties have tried to find the treasure buried on Oak Island, but the riddle of the money pit has remained unsolved to this day. The new season is here. Lagina brother will be back to start a new excavation session in November.
10 years ago, we never would have anticipated going underground in the money pit.
What we're seeing is high-density anomaly below the surface of the money pit.
Yep. Will this be the most exciting historical season yet? The stage is set because the last 3 biggest finds from Season 10 have already taken the world by storm.
We need to get to the bottom of the guard shaft. Could be the offset chamber that we seek.
For people across the globe, the belief that they will finally solve a 228-year-old treasure mystery has never been higher. To start off, I am going to begin with analyzing the Lot 5 barter token. A couple of months after Gary found the Roman coin with Rick, he and Jack Begley fared well once again with a curious, non-ferrous target. But what did they find this time? A lead barter token. It was most likely used as a form of currency several centuries ago, but it wasn't made of silver or gold. But let me emphasize one thing here again. lead artifacts found on Oak Island have sometimes proven to be the greatest clues in helping to solve the mystery. Meanwhile, when archaeometallurgist Emma Colligan analyzed the token, her initial take on its possible origin was more than compelling. But when chemist Dr. Chris McFarland conducted isotope testing on the lead, his laser-focused findings made for an unbelievable moment. According to my judgment and analysis, the object was relatively easy to identify because it was flat, a favorable characteristic for analysis. Yet, it wouldn't have been a piece of cake because it had a very thick, altered crust on it, indicating that it had been submerged for quite some time. Without a doubt, it has endured significant environmental changes over the years. Now hear this out.
The biggest result is that isotopically, it looks very similar to the cross.
No way. I wasn't expecting that.
The Lot 5 token was an exact compositional match to the 14th century lead cross, signifying that both originated from southern France, a region where the Knights Templar maintained a stronghold until the early 1300s. The lead in the disc apparently matches virtually identically with the lead in the lead cross, which is a head-scratcher. Another very significant thing that could tie the Templars to this location is the discovery of the Ys, and then all those other W's pieces are going to fall right into place. The second major discovery of this season is the real banger, because in the last dig of the year, they stumbled upon yet another puzzling discovery. This discovery marks the importance of direction, a possible map, to lead them to gold. It suggests that the gold is hidden somewhere deep within the money pit. The main focus remained on the money pit area, and they continued to excavate the B4C shaft. The B4C shaft is very close to reaching its full depth of around 90 feet. It is located barely 5 feet to the north of the borehole C. In the C1 cluster, including what might be evidence of wooden tunnels that date back to the 15th century. In addition, significant traces of silver and gold were found, which has led to conjecture on the site of the original money pit, as well as the likelihood of a tunnel that leads to a treasure room. The fact that they found gold deposits in the water is another motivator. But how they found these deposits is a tale in itself. They gathered samples in plastic bottles. The entire process aimed to ascertain whether gold was in the water and, if so, where it might be. Even so, what is the scientific basis for this fascinating jelly material? The blob is a complicated material, and it still needs to be clarified precisely what makes it up. The experts think it combines gold, iron, and sulfur. It is believed that the gold came from an organic gold deposit on Oak Island, and the soil in the vicinity provided the chemicals. In its aftermath, I think that the fusion of these materials created the pink blob. Meanwhile, Marty Lagina made light of the possibility that the island's secret would be kept in a little plastic bottle, despite 200 years of extensive expenditure and effort. In the war room, the men were gathered, and Marty demanded to know about the gold. Fortunately, he didn't let them down. And surprisingly, there is more good news. Dr. Dred Michel, a hydrogeologist, said that the concealed gold was located only a short distance from the sea. According to my calculations, it is between 80 and 110 feet deep. This is also consistent with earlier researchers who discovered an engraved stone at a height of 90 feet, or around the same level. It was thought the marking indicated the location of a hidden treasure. Meanwhile, Rick and Marty carried on with their first descent into the garden shaft. Faithful acorns know that the genesis of what would become the Curse of Oak Island began when Rick Lagena was just 11 years old, growing up in northern Michigan. There, he read a 5-page story in the Reader's Digest entitled Oak Island's Mysterious Money Pit. That one brief write-up of the fabled treasure pit and the questions about what it might contain would captivate both him and his younger brother Marty for nearly 50 years until they could take over the hunt themselves. And after more than a decade into their quest, once the garden shaft reconstruction was nearing completion during Season 10, Rick, accompanied by Scott Barlow and Roger Fora, got to make his first descent underground in the money pit area. Since evidence of gold was detected in the garden shaft during its reconstruction, once it was completed to a depth of 82 feet, Marty got his first chance to experience what he had only read about as a child: The Onslow employees next excavated through a level platform or an unidentified vault structure, but they had to stop when the shaft flooded. Significantly, it has been hypothesized by the Oak Island crew that the laborers may have discovered the treasure vault. The team believes that the gold may have been brought to the money pit throughout the course of the dig, and will continue to pursue the progress aspiration to one day stumble upon Marie Antoinette's jewels, or the Ark of the Covenant. But all they ended up finding so far was an intricate network of wooden tunnels. These tunnels date back to the 15th century, but how did people at that time know how to build tunnels? As the run continues, the group discovers a few loose pieces of wood, but the most important find is a large iron fastener. Because of the primitive style of craftsmanship, it is thought to date back to the 1800s, if not earlier. They believe that this discovery gives them a sense that the money pit is somewhere near. One of the artifacts uncovered is a hand-forged spike, which rapidly becomes the center of attention. Because they understand the importance of each lead, the group will launch an inquiry into the surge. It has a rough appearance, yet it contains hand-forged raw iron and indications of aging, making it a valuable artifact with the potential to give insights into Oak Island's history. I find the importance of linking dots to be something fundamental in this whole pursuit. In my pursuit, I ran into an expert statement. Carmen Legg, a person whose life speaks of his love for finding the unknown, concludes that the iron spike that was discovered in the B4C shaft belonged to a rock drill that was used during the medieval era. Last but not least, the garden shaft's greatest hits. Just before winter forced the team to halt their search operations, representatives from Dumi believed they may have encountered a tunnel some 10 feet below the bottom of the garden shaft. Rick and Marty then made their way to the bottom of the shaft together in order to investigate. It's like a childhood fantasy coming true, isn't it? At this stage, Rick and Marty, after 60 years, made their way into the money pit. After all the trace evidence of gold that was detected in water and wood samples during the reconstruction of the garden shaft, it was time for the metal-detecting ninja to see what he could find at the bottom, and it made for one Bobby Dazzler of a moment. He then connected it to a couple of swags the crew had discovered 2 years earlier, suggesting that one of the functions of the swags was to sharpen rock drills. He drew this connection by noting the presence of swags in the same location. The rock drill, a tool employed for drilling rocks or breaking up massive boulders, is believed to have a long history. It resembles those used during the medieval period. Its existence introduces a realm of intriguing possibilities concerning the history of the money pit and the hidden wealth within. The group deliberates whether this artifact provides further evidence of their proximity to the legendary riches. The rock drill holds historical significance as it could have been utilized in the initial construction of the money pit. And what season finale would be complete without a weeping Rick Lagena giving a moving and motivational speech? Will this actually lead to a treasure in the end? Who knows? Further expeditions by the Lagina boys will uncover the story. And to always stay safe, you need to be informed. So subscribe to the channel where I try all my might to bring you the latest and greatest from the archaeological world. In the end, it will be interesting to see if they can suggests that human activity may have existed in a location that was previously believed to be devoid of people. In order to further understand the significance of this significant metallic anomaly evidence on Lot 8, the team made the decision to acquire additional excavation licenses and consult with experts. The discovery raises questions regarding its provenance and any connections it might have to other local findings. The scholars are intrigued by these unique items and believe that this particular area may hold some special significance. A large piece of iron with a beveled edge is discovered by the Oak Island crew. It may be a broken piece of the ancient adze, a type of cutting tool. This result is noteworthy because it agrees with a recent magnetometry research conducted by the team, which found a significant metallic anomaly in the same area, the same site where the survey was done. Our interest in further investigation of that area is piqued by the discovery of this tool in a place that was previously believed to be uninhabited. The team plans to first obtain a permit to excavate before speaking with various experts in order to determine the significance of this discovery. The secrets surrounding Oak Island keep getting more complicated as the show follows the journey of full-time treasure hunters through each new season. However, you might get the same results with your own gear. Their discoveries with metal detectors open up hitherto unfathomable vistas for historical inquiry. Always make sure to get permission before hunting anywhere, whether it's on someone else's land or a public space. The team of The Curse of Oak Island found some scientific proof that suggests it's possible the money pit holds a sizable amount of silver. They also found a patch of cement that had traces of gold and other metals, which made them think that the most rare metal in the world, osmium, would be buried somewhere in the ethereal depths of Oak Island. There is an island called Oak Island in the Canadian province of Nova Scotia. The two brothers Marty and Rick Lagena have, for all intents and purposes, dedicated their entire lives to solving Oak Island's enigma and learning its closely guarded secrets, while harboring the hope of unearthing hidden gold on the island. Despite the fact that they had previously spent many years trying very hard to uncover the island's secrets, but making very little headway in their attempts, it appears that their most recent treasure hunting expedition has really taken a fruitful turn. On Oak Island, the Lagina brothers have made a number of important discoveries recently. Some claim that these discoveries have made it possible to access the hidden wealth on Oak Island. This archaeological gem was found thanks to the use of ground-penetrating radar. It was initially thought to be a crossbow bolt, but a specialist in ancient antiquities thinks it might have been a javelin, a type of weapon used by the Romans more than 2,000 years ago. The team finds a metal money pit took place in 1803 under the leadership of a group of investors known as the Onslow Company. They were given their own money pit. The excavations had to be terminated because the party's attempts to descend to the pit's floor were unsuccessful. The following century saw a variety of groups try to solve the island's riddles, but due to the enormous difficulties they encountered, none of them were successful. The hole was flooded, which was the most significant of these, and made additional excavation unsafe and difficult. The importance of this aspect was the greatest of all. Additionally, the pit was wired with a number of devices that, when activated, would cause the pit to fill with water and keep anybody from discovering the treasure. Despite these barriers, the excavations persisted, and the Oak Island Treasure Company was founded in 1861. The flooding that was taking place in the pit prevented this specific squad's attempts from progressing past a depth of 90 feet. As a result of the bankruptcy of the Oak Island Treasure Company in 1909, the excavations were abruptly ended at that time. Since then, a number of additional teams have tried to locate the riches that is hidden on Oak Island, but the enigma of the money pit has remained a secret. The discovery of the money pit and the initial excavations on the island both had a significant impact on the evolution of the island's history, as well as the ongoing search for treasure there. Even with the challenges and roadblocks that were encountered, this is true. Despite the various challenges and disappointments that have been encountered over the centuries-long search for riches on Oak Island, the mystery surrounding the island's location continues to fascinate people. The quest to unravel the mystery surrounding the island has recently been taken on by a number of new entities. In 2010, the Oak Island Tourism Society was founded as a group dedicated to preserving the island's history and encouraging tourism. The most notable change to have taken place in recent years is this one. The Oak Island Archaeological Society has played an important role in raising public knowledge of Oak Island and the treasure hunt, in addition to participating actively in several archaeological digs on the island. Get on the mailing list right away to learn about fresh information and surprising findings about Oak Island. The Lagena brothers will probably receive the lion's share of the treasure, it appears. First of all, the Lagena brothers' ongoing search of Oak Island is authorized by the Treasure Trove license. Licensed treasure hunters are allowed to legally keep 90% of any wealth they uncover, according to a government rule. Marty goes on to suggest that it is very likely that multiple claimants would surface and argue that they had a right to the treasure's contents if a sizable treasure were found on Oak Island. These claimants may rely on some element of their residence, their ancestry, or another factor to support their claims. There will undoubtedly be a lot of people trying to get their hands on at least some of the fabled riches, but it is impossible to say who, if anyone, will be successful. The Lagena brothers and the government would both have legitimate rights over at least some share of the treasure, making them the obvious choice for at least two recipients. However, it is impossible to predict if a situation like this would ever happen in The Curse of Oak Island. A team of researchers are shocked by my shocking revelation. For additional information, watch the video after this one. Object that appears to be what they have been looking for since the first episode of the show in the second episode of the 9th season. Additional inspection reveals that the piece only contains a modest amount of gold in its entirety. The secrets surrounding Oak Island keep getting more complicated as the show follows the journey of full-time treasure hunters through each new season. However, you might get the same results with your own gear. Their discoveries with metal detectors open up hitherto unfathomable vistas for historical inquiry. Always make sure to get permission before hunting anywhere, whether it's on someone else's land or a public space. As the team continued their journey through Portugal, they turned their attention to the country and the Templar Knights, while looking for old structures and researching relics that might be connected to Oak Island. Together with Oak Island theorist Corjan Mall and a few local historians, Rick and Alex Lagina, Doug Crowell, and Peter Fornetti visited a number of ancient sites in Portugal. They were led to 3 distinct locations, each of which displayed mounting proof that Oak Island's history is connected in some way to that of Portugal and the Templars. In Tomar, Portugal, there is a church and Templar fortress called Convento de Cristo. It was built in the 12th century. To start their investigation, the group was brought there. Corjan was particularly intrigued by the aqueduct's drainage system, which he thought had served as inspiration for whoever created the Smith's Cove finger drains. The aqueduct drainage system was what captivated Corjan the most out of all the amazing elements that were packed into this massive structure. This link might have seemed a little tenuous, but Corjan had more details. The original church gate, now faded, bore an engraving of a cross surrounded by 4 dots. The sign found on the HO stone on Oak Island had an engraving that matched this one exactly. The HO stone was a fragment of a rock discovered on Oak Island. The boulder is thought to have formerly indicated the location of a treasure, but an accident in 1921 reportedly destroyed it. The lads also discovered another O-shaped sign with a dot in the middle, which is also depicted on the HO stone during the previous week. The group then traveled to a military history museum in Lisbon. They had replicas of the 2 little cannonballs that had been found on Oak Island, and they intended to use the museum's armory to see if they could match the cannonballs to one of the cannons there. The fact that 2 museum employees immediately confirmed that the 2 cannonballs were of Portuguese origin wasn't a surprise to the boys, because they had already heard from a chemist in a previous episode that the cannonball's composition indicated a Portuguese origin. Alex loaded the cannon with the ball once the guys had discovered the right kind of cannon in order to make sure they had the right kind of weapon. The cannon, which was first used in the 14th or 15th century, was often mounted on a ship's deck. The experts at the museum, however, claimed that the gun could be easily taken out of the ship and brought to an island. Have you already subscribed? Do this right away to learn more exciting updates on fresh discoveries made on Oak Island. Given the ongoing instability on the global stage that has existed ever since the New World was discovered, it should not be shocking that the mysterious Oak Island has come to represent a secret trove of royal treasures. Over time, Oak Island has come to represent a secret hoard of royal treasures. 2 of the most convincing responses in this area come from the French and British militaries, both of which are supportive. The British's hostile acts against the French garrison at Fort Louisbourg are the defining element in this interpretation. It's thought that at some point during either of the French and Indian War or the 7 Years' War, the French treasure that had been housed in the bastion during those wars was transferred to the sophisticated vault on Oak Island. 2 very different viewpoints can be taken while examining this line of thinking. Some believe that at some time during the 6-week siege in 1758, the French were able to smuggle all of their treasures past the British boats that were invading and deposit them in the fittingly named Money Pit, which was located within Fort Louisbourg. Some individuals think that the British attack on Fort Louisbourg in 1758, which was successful, served as the catalyst for the ultimate building of the Money Pit, which served as a storage facility. This story holds that the British Army was given the order to painstakingly dismantle the devastated French bastion, pillage its treasures, and bury them beneath an island off the coast of Nova Scotia. You won't believe the recent astounding scientific discovery. To learn more, see the video after this one.